This is the original Hamilton Murph that was featured in the movie Interstellar. This was originally just a movie prop, but people wanted it so much that Hamilton made it available for the retail market. And luckily, my friends over at Martin Binder are authorized dealers for Hamilton, so they let me borrow this watch for a week. So if you're interested in the Murph or watches from Hamilton, Omega, Tudor, Tissot, go ahead and reach out to my friends over at Martin Binder. I'm going to go ahead and leave their link in the description box. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below as well. All right, let's flip that camera and get into the specs. We have a case diameter of 42 millimeters, a lug to lug of 52 millimeters, a lug width of 22 millimeters, a thickness of 11 millimeters, and supplied on the strap, it weighs in at 80 grams. We have a sapphire crystal with no apparent AR coating, superluminova on the hands and on the indices, an oversized push-pull crown that measures in at 6.9 millimeters, which gives the watch 100 meters of water resistance. The Murph is powered by the H10 movement, which has 80 hours of power reserve, beats at 3 Hz, and is accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds per day. The MSRP of this watch is $995. Now taking a closer look, we have a flat black dial with faux patina on the hands, indices, and lettering. Printed above the hand stack, we have the word Hamilton. Printed below the hand stack, we have khaki and automatic. We have printed Arabic numerals and a minute track that goes along the outside of the dial. We have a cathedral hour hand, a matching minute hand, and a unique seconds hand that has the word Eureka printed in Morse code. Moving over to the case, we have a fully brushed finish, brushing on the sides, brushing on the top, and to contrast that case, the bezel is in a high polish. At the 3 o'clock, we see an oversized crown, which is also polished, and it has no crown guards. We have a calf leather strap that is embossed with an alligator finish, and the contrasting stitching is in a cream color. The strap tapers from 22 millimeters down to 20 millimeters and has a Hamilton branded brushed and polished buckle. There is an exhibition case back, which gives full view of the H10 movement and the Hamilton rotor. Now overall, I like the design of the Murph. It is a no-nonsense field watch, and it actually reminds me of the Weiss field watch. Now that watch is a little bit more expensive, but that is made in the United States. But we're not talking about the Weiss field watch, we're talking about the Hamilton Murph. So let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons of this watch, and we'll start off with the cons, with the first con being the size. Now personally, I think it's sized great for my 7.5-inch wrist, and I know I'm an outlier when it comes to wrist size. Most people have smaller wrists than I do, but Hamilton did listen and they made a 38 millimeter variant, so go ahead and click up there. I did review the 38 millimeter Murph, so click right there after you're done watching this video. My next con is going to be the strap. I think it's just a little too stiff, and yes, while it is movie accurate with it being an embossed alligator strap, I think this watch would have benefited greatly from a standard finish, maybe a less glossy finish. You have a field watch here that is no nonsense, fully brushed, and then you have this glossy faux alligator strap to go along with it. I don't think it meshes well. I do like that it's padded and it adds a little bit of thickness to the strap. I think the finishing kind of clashes with what you're trying to accomplish. Another slight con I have with this watch, and I don't understand the reason, but the 38 millimeter variant has better lume on the indices than the 42 millimeter variant. So while the lume on the hands are bright, the lume on the numerals fade rather quickly. So the lume is passable, but at the same time could be better. And not only can the lume be a little bit better, but the sapphire crystal also can be a little bit better. There is no AR coating on this watch, so you are going to get a few reflections here or there, especially in the studio lights. I noticed that. So slight cons for the lack of AR coating and the lack of lume on the numerals. And my last con is going to be the H10 movement itself. And while it functions properly, I know you can't regulate this movement at home by yourself. You're gonna have to send it into Hamilton for it to get regulated. And then on top of that, Hamilton may not even service your movement. They might just swap in a new movement. So if you're a purist and you want the original movement with the original watch, this is something you may want to consider. But that's enough of the cons. Let's move on over to the pros, with the first pro being the design of this watch. Overall, I think it looks great. It is a vintage inspired field watch. It has great brushing on the sides, on the top. It has good pops of polishing on the bezel and on the crown. I like the cathedral handset. The faux patina works great with the black dial and with that cathedral handset. I think it works well as a vintage inspired field watch. My next pro is going to be the subtle Eureka Morse code on that seconds hand. This is how the characters in the movie Interstellar interacted with each other using the seconds hand as Morse code. So I think it's a great Easter egg that they incorporated onto the production model of the Murph. My next pro is going to be the layout of the dial. Everything is proportioned nicely. The numerals are just large enough. The hands are just long enough. There is no date window to compromise the symmetry. There is no ghost date position position on the movement as well, which is great. The oversized crown is easy to operate for winding and setting the hands. And not to mention the movement has 80 hours of power reserve, so if this is your Monday through Friday watch, you can leave the watch on your nightstand over the weekend and pick it up on Monday and continue wearing it without a hitch. And my last pro is going to be how well this watch wore on my wrist. And I know in the cons I said this watch can be big, but for my wrist, I love the stance that this watch has. Not only is it 42 millimeters in diameter, it is relatively thin at just under 11 millimeters. I think the stance of this watch is great. I think the profile of this watch is nice. And while the lug to lug is slightly long at 52 millimeters, I think the proportions overall fit the watch and fit my wrist perfectly. So there it is, the original Hamilton Murph. Whew. I think if you have the wrist size that can take this watch, if you have, say, over 7¼ inch wrist, this watch is going to fit perfectly. I think the 42 millimeter diameter with that 11 millimeter thickness works great. It's going to slip under your cuff just nicely. It also has a nice big dial for field watch applications. And while there is no AR coating, it is very easy to glance down and read the time. Even with the faux patina on that black dial, I think it offers just enough contrast for you to easily tell the time. The oversized crown is easy to manipulate. The movement winds and operates nicely. It has 80 hours of power reserve. It comes from a reputable brand like Hamilton. And overall, it just looks like a field watch should. And at 22 millimeter lug width, if you don't like the strap, you could always swap it out for something that you have in your watch box, maybe a different leather strap, maybe a NATO strap, something to give it more of a field watch aesthetic. So if you wanted a field watch from a brand with a lot of history, you cannot go wrong with the Hamilton Murph. Once again, thank you to my friends over at Martin Binder for letting me borrow this watch. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and leave all their contact information in the description box below. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you're still here, go ahead and watch my 38 millimeter Murph review right here. Go ahead. It's right there. 38 millimeter, white dial. It's not bad. I prefer the 42, but go ahead. If you have smaller wrist, 38 millimeter Murph right there. Click it. Click it. Now. Click. Now.